Hello witches, and welcome back to Activist Witch, where we discuss witchcraft and activism. You can call me Isha, my pronouns are she, they, and in this video we're going to discuss why witchcraft is political, why some people think that witchcraft shouldn't be political, nothing really should be political except politics, and how ignorant that kind of view is, because it just is. Yeah. But before we get started, let me remind you that I've opened a Ko-fi, which is an alternative to Patreon that takes less from creators. And on there, you can support directly what I do here. You can leave me a one-off donation, you can do a monthly donation that repeats, or you can even get a tarot reading with me, Italian style, and the low-income option starts at £5. And usually what I make from tarot readings goes back into the community, usually Kuches to Gaza and the Good Law Project trying to bring back trans rights to the UK. So hey, if you decide to support me there, thank you so very much. Have you noticed that I've been a bit absent? What a month. Raven rightfully suggests that instead of Pride Month, June should be Rat Month, and had I had the energy, it would have been. It still is with me. I'm slightly getting back the energy. Now, realistically, this video should be a video essay. The reason why it's not structured like that, and we'll see how much I remember and how much it stays from the top of my stomach and I vomit it out, is that not you, not specifically you, but I think mainly the algorithm this year has told me, has tried to tell me and make me believe people don't really care about having knowledge and being educated. People care when you get angry, and that's been reflected on the fact that I think what's the best work that we have ever done, which is Illegal Women, got less views than my rant about what Raven brought you receipts for. So if you don't know, Illegal Women is a video that we have done within 24 hours of the UK Supreme Court ruling back in April. And it's basically the result of 5-6 years of research that went on in the background. And finally, it made sense to share. So if you had any doubts about the history of the existence of trans people, of trans rights, of trans existence, the way that it has adapted, in 2 hours you learn everything there, and then specifically also the legal framework of the UK. The week after Raven did that disproportionate amount of work, emotional, mental, of physical research, like the kind of sources that we brought you for that, a week later I was just ranting about it, and I was basically making a video that is similar or sort of made me want to then do this video, which is just titled, Witchers, Your Abusers, because contrary to popular belief, I do believe that the name of witch and wrapping yourself in the idea that you're not doing esoteric stuff, you're not being an occultist, you're a witch. That term itself is political, historically. So you might think that witchcraft is not political. When you say that, you're not making a statement that says anything different other than you're being ignorant and you don't know what you're talking about. So that's the premise of this. Unfortunately, the ranting video that I did got twice as many views as Illegal Women. So first things first, if you haven't watched Illegal Women, go watch that now. That is more important than anything that I'm going to say here. You need to know that stuff, because otherwise you do not understand why you need to be angry. And when we don't understand why we need to be angry, we don't know how to direct our anger into something that changes things, something that you channel the anger and it makes a difference. The way that we have tried to channel and make a difference is indeed, as I mentioned at the beginning, since April, half of my profits from tarot go donated to the Good Law Project that is trying to take basically the UK government and the UK Supreme Court ruling against trans rights to the European Court of Human Rights. I mean, that's how we got the Gender Recognition Act in the first place in 2004. The UK was taken to the European Court, so we hope. And we try to put our money where our mouth is. I know exactly why this algorithm and other algorithms all over the social media will put in front of you stuff that you can get angry at, so that you can go in the comments. Comments are engagement, and that's what YouTube considers good, considers popular, because make no mistake, YouTube doesn't let me be here out of the kindness of their heart. It doesn't even share 55% of what I make with me and then takes 45% just for the privilege of being here. Just out of the goodness of their heart, not at all. the point of YouTube is keeping you on YouTube as long as possible, which is why there are autoplays afterwards. And when you get engaged, when you get angry, when you leave comments, YouTube just loves that. Which is the reason why this kind of video gets more in front of you. While when I do video essays that are properly researched and give you receipts, other than Capitalism and Cottagecore, which has been shown in front of a lot of people, after that, nothing has been shown as much, despite the fact that my video essays are literally, okay, are you wondering about the consumerism in the witchcraft community, Capitalism and Cottagecore? Are you wondering why the new right and the alt-right actually is insidiously recruiting in pagan circles? My 2 videos on witchcraft and turfs that I've done August last year. It's this, I do this stuff because I know, because I've read, I found the connections, and I'm explaining it to you as simple as I can. And YouTube thinks when people are just listening to you and maybe saying thank you, that doesn't create engagement. It doesn't outrage people enough. And this is the situation that we are in, which, if you expand, it's completely understandable why we are in the era of Trump. We are in the era of people shouting and just caring about winning rather than being right. Yeah, that's the thing. This is historically correct. What I'm going to tell you and explain to you as to why, whether you like it or not, witchcraft is political. It's an historical fact. You might not like it. You might think that witches for Trump have a meaning to exist. And I can explain to you why that's not the case. You can probably be an occultist. You could be interested in esotericism. You could be interested then in astrology or whatever, all the little specifics of things that come under the umbrella of witchcraft. But you are not a witch if you stand with the oppressor, if you stand with fascism, which is not, again, an opinion. What is happening in the US is fascism. You might like it, but it's not objectable to that way. The authoritarianism that is going on, that's just the description of it. Now, what is the issue of saying witchcraft is not political? It's the ignorance of history. So we have to go back to the witch trials, because I think in modern times, people have liked to go under the name of witch, especially when it came back through second feminism wave in the 70s, 60s and 70s. Starhawk is one of those that brought this back. Because the idea of being a woman, a femme person, and a witch was exactly reclaimed because it was being rebellious to the system. The witch is the woman that the patriarchy does not want. It will beat it out of you. It will burn you, it will drown you if you are not in line. So that's the entire reason why the movement of witchcraft and feminism actually is connected. Then it can go wrong and there are turfs. By all means, done a video about that, go check that out. But that is the first, most recent point. If we even go back to the establishment of Wicca in the 1940s, that is also related to something political, because I briefly mentioned it in another video. The entire reason why Gardner and the New Forest Coven could be out and about, there could be a museum of witchcraft and all of that, is because in 1945, if I'm not wrong, the Witchcraft Act was repealed and it was then replaced with other acts. But the point was that since the 1800s, the entire point of calling yourself a witch, being a medium, it was not considered true. Like you, of course, you were scamming people, but that was the kind of charge that would have been put on you if you called yourself a witch. If you call yourself a witch, you're lying, you're scamming people, whether with seances or with potions or whatever. So the entire illegality of being a witch, guess what? It's about a law that existed that didn't allow you to exist. That is politics. More to the core of the issue, I know that politics seems boring. I know because it seemed like that to me. Yeah, some time ago. I was going to say not too long ago. No, it's quite long now. It's a good decade now. But I understand, especially as someone that was born and raised in Italy. I challenge anyone to understand politics and even just the difference between the right and the left, being born and raised in Italy. There are different factors to it. One is language, if you ask me. Italian is such a redundant language, and it's so flourished that you can say nothing for 10 minutes using high words, and people have just no idea what you said, but it sounds intelligent because, again, we have this variety of language. We have Aulic, or Old Italian that sounds fancy and all of that. So I got through university not understanding politics and thinking I am not political. Why? Because I don't get it. I genuinely did not understand what we were talking about. So the first thing is I kind of understand if people are ignorant about politics because it sounds complicated. And so their solution, instead of admitting, oh, I am ignorant, so I don't even understand how this connects to politics, that ignorance actually makes them a bit arrogant. They don't want to admit that ignorance. And so they go, oh, no, I don't care about politics is so vulgar. Politics is, they're all the same. Yeah, that's ignorance, babes. And guess what? When you are ignorant, you are an easy prey because you don't know what's going on. And kind of the reason why I'm here and why I do video essays is to make you understand in very simple terms, as I have learned, what's happening in the world out there so that you can make educated choices. When you go and say, I don't care about politics, your choice is, I don't understand, and I'm okay with that, and things will happen around me anyway. And it creates that alienation, which usually authoritative governments count on. If you get alienated, if you don't get involved in your democracy, in your political surroundings, by voting, by knowing why having different ideas brings you different results, you're just letting people in power do whatever they want, and you're sitting back hoping that it will not affect you too badly. Spoiler alert, unless you're a billionaire, it will come for you. It will always end up worse for you. It's just the trend of things. Actually, to be very much addressing people that claim no politics, but really it's because they don't understand politics. I'll tell you something that if it had been said to 12-year-old Isha would have saved me a lot of time. This is the fundamental difference between the right and the left, okay? The right is conservative, wants things not to change, and the bottom line of what they want is to pay less taxes and keep more money. Like, ultimately, all the things about, no, we don't want immigration, no rights for people. The entire bottom line is how do I keep the most money that I have made? I've made this money is mine, why do I have to pay taxes? So it's a very individualistic kind of thinking. You think about yourself, your nuclear family, you protect that by all means, but you're like, I do not understand the concept of having to give money to the government when I am working hard. That's the basic, kind of ignorant take of someone on the right. They vote for Tories, they vote for Conservatives, they vote for Republicans, because the main promise they want is to pay less money to the entity that governs them. Every other thing that then they want, so the racism, the homophobia, the transphobia, the war on minorities, that it's all because, in a way or another, the propaganda has told them the reason why you have to pay taxes, the reason why you have less money, the reason why you have less jobs is because these people are coming for you. It's the meme about the billionaire and the cookies. I'll put it here. So that's the point. They have been told that anything that creates a change from what they know from the past, it's gonna ruin them. And so that's what they have to fight against. Which is also, by the way, the reason why it becomes fertile territory for the right to come recruit in pagan circles, because we have that romanticization of the past, of the cottage life, of the farm life. And that is very easy to exploit in saying, well, if things were better before, then maybe we need people not to cross borders like it was before. So just colonialism. We ignore that colonialism existed. We went to their house to steal their resources. No. Wasn't it better when you were in your own village and there wasn't anyone with a skin tone different than yours? Fun fact on that. The most racist places in the UK are the ones with the highest white presence. So that's exactly what I told you before about the propaganda. You get people to be racist when actually they don't even know a person of color. You get people to be transphobic when they don't actually even know a trans person. And you just tell them, these are the people that you have to fear, and these are the people whose fault it is that things are changing, and you don't want things to change. That's the entire point of the right and conservatism. You conserve. You are reactionary, so you only do things in response, but you don't want anything else to change. Which is also, by the way, the entire propaganda of Marvel, and we discussed that in Propaganda All Along. Did you watch that? Unlikely. Algorithm didn't put it in front of you. That explains to you why everything that you get from media, it's still trying to push your mind into, you don't really want to change things. Whoever wants to change things, in the end, is a villain that wants to kill people. So people that want no borders, people that want vindication for white supremacy, Killmonger and stuff. The entire Marvel situation is propaganda that way. You can still enjoy it, but if you have, please have the critical lens, the critical thinking when you watch it, to realize is that Ironheart, which I think is currently going on Disney, and Wakanda Forever, which I had to watch to understand the premise of Ironheart. It's so insulting to anyone that is part of a minority, because they are using the existence of minorities to then turn it around and see, there are bad people that kill, make them fight each other. To me, I understand why every actor involved has to pay their bills, and so it's involved. But that is part of the propaganda that makes you think those are the problem, really. That's why those people are part of gangs. By the way, both in the UK and the US, the most dangerous branch of terrorism is internal, and it's white supremacist. The left, very, very simply, is, yes, it's the kind of people that want people to pay taxes. Usually people that make enough money that they can afford taxes. The infamous adding taxes for the super rich. When you make an amount of money that is disproportionately high, and you have shareholders cuts and stuff like that, you're just playing the accumulation game. And that creates a disparity. So the idea of the left is we need a society that gives dignity to everyone. So the entire point of having a cost of living, so it costs you to live, and living as in the basic needs, like you need healthcare, you need food, you need a roof over your head, you need food to eat. So those are the essentials that you need as a human being. The left thinks that is a basic dignity that everybody should have. How are we going to pay for that from the government? Taxing the ultra-rich. That's the entire point of it. So you can see how one is based in individualism, the right, and one is based in community. I want everybody to have basic dignities. That's the most basic definition of right and left. We're not going to go in the definition of socialism, as much as I hope to retire to Cuba and stuff like that. But maybe give it a look, like check the quality of life in Cuba, being under embargo since the 60s, and yet having a quality of life that is better than the US, because they care more about each other on a governmental level and on a human level. Yeah. So hopefully from that you might already understand, if the left is more community-based, that naturally aligns more with the entire concept of witchcraft. By all means, we have hedge witches, we have solitary witches. But when you think about witchcraft in the sense of even just communion with the land, well, guess what? The left is the side that goes, well, regardless of how much money it makes a few people, we should go on green energy because it's more sustainable. We should actually consider degrowth because it's more sustainable. So that is the reason why I opened this channel in the first place, was the genuine belief that even the middle class white woman in her mid-30s and over that happened to marry a rich man or has made their own money by being a CEO or manager or whatever, and then decide to go a bit hippie and a bit spiritual, if nothing else, will understand, and there's going to be a seed of commonality for her to understand the importance of supporting minorities that don't have her privileges, in the fact that, as witches, we are all a bit mad about the state of the planet. And if you're not paying attention. I'm in the UK and there's over 30 degrees today, so that alone should make you understand climate change is real and really problematic. And climate change is completely anthropogenic. It's made by man. It started in the late 1700s to grow more and more warm and disrupt weather patterns and reduce the ocean in the state that they are. Like it's all around. And it started because of the Industrial Revolution. And one of the main things is that because we started to take oil from the ground, and the way that we burn oil and gases in general releases CO2 that was in the ground, and that was why the reason was it stays in the ground, and then we release it and it creates all the trouble that we have, and there shouldn't be as much CO2, and it's gonna warm everything up and it's gonna acidify the oceans, and we're just like, because I don't understand, I'm sure it's going to be fine. It's not, it's really not. But anyway, my point is, every witch that wants to go and claim that title must have at some point bumped into the idea of crystals and herbs. And the herbs should be the step that gets you to understand the connection to the earth, to the land, to the physical dirt. Realize climate change is an issue. And if that is an issue, how many other issues are connected to that? And climate change is connected to capitalism. Capitalism is connected to patriarchy and uses patriarchy to reinforce itself. The tragedy of the genocide in Gaza at the hand of Israel is something that has added so much in the last 2 years to climate change. If you don't want to think about babies being killed by the IDF, just think about the fact that however many bombs have been let out in Gaza by Israel are the reason why climate change is worse. I hope that starts a seed of commonality and understanding and empathy, so that then maybe eventually, if you don't have it yet, you also get the empathy for the Palestinian people being killed like fish in a barrel at the moment by Israel, okay? So hopefully you're starting to get the idea of, even if you are a hedge witch, a solitary witch, the concept of witchcraft talks about a sense of communion with something outside of yourself. Systems like the capitalist white supremacist patriarchy do count so much on individualism that support you in the idea of destroying everything there is around for your own benefit. You can see how that is antithetical to witchcraft, hopefully. But there's an historical point as well. So, and I'm not talking about the 70s reclaiming the term of witch as if it was just a term for feminist. I'm not even talking about the dissipation of the Witchcraft Act in the 40s. I am talking about the witch trials. So, when I did the first video, You're Not Witches, You're Abusers, I had this feeling of, you can't claim that name. But I was too mad to actually reflect on why historically I was actually right. Like, it's not just a feeling, I was actually correct. And thinking back, it made me realize I'm not inventing this. And you know why it shows? Okay. So I've talked in The Opposite of Capitalism, and the opposite of capitalism, by the way, is community. That's the short version, but you should really check the video essay because it was really, really good. And one of the main sources of that video essay is Caliban and the Witch by SILVIA Federici, which is less of a witchcraft book and more of a historical book, tracing the origins of capitalism and how we moved from feudalism to the rebellion of the peasants, and then the rebellion of the peasants was smothered by the invention of capitalism, and so just moving from feudalism to capitalism, which still is about capital and money and whoever has that. But that's the point, like there was a rebellion to feudalism. There was the working class going, no, like having to just work the fields, and then a part of it needs to go to the Lord because God gave them this land. No. Also, the common land was taken away from villages. Like, it's a beautiful book. I do advise you to read it. It's also free on the web archive, so genuinely, like, sit with it with a cup of tea from time to time. It's amazing historical research. What comes through these historical research, and honestly it comes through anyone that talks about the witch trials, is the disproportionate percentage of people tried and killed on the accusation of witchcraft that were, guess what, women. I use women as the social category, not as the identity. I also explain that better in The Opposite of Capitalism. Here's the fun fact. Here's the weird thing about the witch trials being mainly against women. It was mainly against women, and these women were poor women, were women at the margins, were old women at the time. And in the Malleus Maleficarum, which was the guide to find witches, there were specific chapters filled with hatred for midwives who tended to be women before men overtook them. Because there was a clear choice made there, and it was to take authority and strip authority away from women. Why? One of those main points of why the rebellion of peasants against the lords and then the bourgeoisie was working was the silver lining of the Black Death. The Black Death killed a third of European population, and that included peasants. So there were less workers around, and less workers, unfortunately for the lords and the bourgeoisie, meant that those that were left could ask for higher wages. And the fact that that happened really didn't please the bourgeoisie. And one of the reasons why Puritanism and Christianity were then propped up were the idea of women, angels of the earth, most importantly mothers, because we need them to make children to replenish the workforce that we have lost. The entire concept of capitalism and patriarchy and how they work together is in this divide between people who work, men, and people who make the workers, women. That's how it works. That's the most basic level of this. And the fact that working class women were the main ones accused of witchcraft was very much a political choice of the people persecuting them. Because these were rebellious women. These, when they were midwives, were women that knew what herbs and what works to use if there were unwanted pregnancies. And unwanted pregnancy could not be a thing that women could take into their own hand. That's why reproductive rights are so tied to freedom and to trans rights and to ecology and to rights of the planet. Like, this independence about bodily autonomy started to be taken away because the bourgeoisie needs worker, the elite needs worker, Bezos needs you to make children so that they can work in their Amazon warehouses 20 years from now. And they also need their quality of life to be very low so that they have to work in the Amazon warehouses, by the way. So when we look at all the people accused of witchcraft, tried of witchcraft, killed for witchcraft, there were all these women that either you wanted to take whatever was left to them by their husbands, and they risked being independent, you couldn't have that. There were midwives and canning folks that would help their village with, a prayer and a tonic for your cow to make more milk. Those were the witches accused of witchcraft and tried to be killed. And sometimes they were so useful to their community that their community wouldn't turn against them. But that was the main thing, seed the doubt so that the community turned against their own. At the same fucking time, there were men that wouldn't claim the title of witches, wouldn't dream of that because witch was a dirty word. That's the point. Like, that was a dispregiative term for anyone seen meddling with magic, and then the next connection was, it's meddling with, women are meddling with magic and their magic is given to them by the devil, da-da-da-da-da. You know who was actually playing with serious fucking magic stuff and was not looked twice at? People like Cornelius Agrippa. People like William Lilly. Cornelius Agrippa gave us the 3 books of occult philosophy, which are still one of the fundamental readings of whoever gets into witchcraft even nowadays. William Lilly wrote Christian Astrology, which is, again, one of the fundamentals when you get into planetary magic. All the Solomon talisman come from Agrippa. Like, it's a cornerstone of witchcraft today as well. Those 2 men were living at the time of the witch trials. Agrippa is late 1400s to 1500s, which was when the panic started. And then the apex of the panic of the witch trial was the 1600s, and that's the era of William Lilly. In the US, in Salem, that started at the end of the 1600s. 1692 is when the Salem witch trial started. Fun fact, a woman that was tried for witchcraft in the US actually was accused of witchcraft because she had a copy and read a copy of William Lilly Christian Astrology. So she was tried for being a witch. William Lilly in the UK, no, not at all, actually invited to court and popular astrologer. Agrippa openly spoke in defense of witches that were being tried. There were the trials, and he moved around the entirety of Europe. It was a lot on Italy, it was a lot on Germany, France, and there were vague accusations that never became anything. Like, he was arrested once, and it was because of that, and possibly because he said bad words about a queen. It was never because of the 3 occult books of philosophy, despite the fact that witch finders and witch trials were using the possession of a copy of the 3 books of occult philosophy as a proof that people were being witches. What people? Women. I want you to focus on this for a moment. At the same time, in the same moment in history, there were men practicing magic, occult magic, witchcraft. Nobody thought of them as witches. And then there were women using their herb concoctions to help their community. And all of a sudden, those are the witches that we need to burn because they have made a pact with the devil. Do you start to understand why there are political choices that have been made on who to target with the word witch? Do you start to understand why, if you decide to go under the label of witch, you are taking on your shoulders a heritage that is not fancy, it's not aesthetic, it's not cool. It's vindicating people that were at the margins. And because they were at the margins, they were bullied to death. It's not even about the magic or the practice itself. It's a very, very clear choice. And in fact, you will find even here on YouTube that some people don't go by witches, they go by occultists. I think you need to give thought to that. And it's also the reason why I have zero tolerance for people that think it's cool to say, oh, we are the daughters of the witches that you couldn't burn. Most of the people that were accused of witchcraft were just marginalized people. And saying that they were witches was the way to get them killed. When we reclaim the word now, beyond our practice, beyond our herbs, beyond our altars, beyond anything that we do that practices witchcraft, that makes witchcraft a practice, it's a responsibility to understand why that term has been used against people, and we are trying to reclaim it. And to honor this way the people that, when that word was used against them, were killed for it. If you do not understand this, if you're not aware of this, please learn. There is a reading list down in the description below for you to start learning. I've made video essays if reading is not your thing, which is not mine, I'm dyslexic. But if you don't know, please learn. If you do know and you ignore it, I'm not here to threaten anyone. But I think when you insult the past that way, the memory of, it's a varied number that goes between 60,000 and 100,000 people that were executed for witchcraft. When you say that witchcraft is not political, all those people you are insulting. You are having fun with a word that was used specifically against them because they were at the margins of society. And those margins needed clearing because either you stood in line with what patriarchy and capitalism told you and you were a good mother in the house making children, but if you dared doing anything different from that, if you dared being independent without a husband, if you dared knowing enough about herbalism to help yourself and other women to not have children if they didn't want to, then it was worth calling you a witch and kill you for it. And when you ignore that history, may all the gods help you, because there's a lot of people that you are disrespecting, a lot of ancestors that you are disrespecting. And if I am this angry, and I am just learning about these things, I can only imagine how those ancestors can be angry about people that use, or worse, ignore the tremendous capital sacrifice that they have gone through, so that you now today can use the word witch and make it sound fancy and make it sound rebellious, even if you stand on the side of Trump. Even if you think that being a TERF, you can be a witch. Witchcraft is political. If you think any different, I don't have anything else to say to you. The world always balances itself. I'll just say that. And until the next video, do I need to tell you? The patriarchy is hexed, and along with it, everybody who tries to uphold it.